Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? It's a sunny Sunday morning here, and one thing that I like to do is just kind of sit outside if the weather's nice like today and read the newspaper. I know this is a little bit old-fashioned, reading like a physical paper newspaper, and this morning it got me thinking, I wonder how much longer they're actually going to be printing these, like on real paper. And then that extended into thinking about just physical media in general. Obviously everything's been going digital, and I don't think there's any question that physical media is dying out. It's just been heading that way for a long time. It started really with music, and it progressed into video games, and then now movies and television. But one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is why. Obviously there's the kind of traditional debate of, well, it's cheaper and it's more convenient, right? You don't need to go out to a store and pick up a physical thing and buy it and bring it home. But I don't think that's entirely the reason why the industry has been pushing so hard towards getting rid of physical media and only going towards digital distribution. Other than that traditional debate of, well, it's more convenient for people, they've also said, well, it's cheaper, right? There's no physical media to make. There's no cost to doing that. You're just uploading a file to a server. Well, if that's the case, then why haven't prices really been coming down? I mean, a AAA game costs the same amount of money, whether you're going and buying that copy in a store versus downloading it from, say, the eShop for Nintendo or PlayStation Store, something like that. The thing that really worries me, though, is another reason I haven't heard too many people talk about, but I think is entirely plausible. And that is that going digital distribution gives the rights holders, the manufacturers, more control. What I mean by that is this. If you go to the store and buy a physical copy of a game, you can play that whenever you want. You don't have to have anything special going on. You don't owe that manufacturer any more money if you want to play it. So you buy a game today, you play it, you put it on the shelf. 4 or 5 years later, maybe you get nostalgic about that game. Oh, I remember that game, I want to play it again. So you pull it out and you put it back in your game console, and it works, and you can play it. And again, you don't owe anyone any more money to do that. With digital distribution, though, there's always the whole threat of digital rights management. And in order for that to work, there has to be internet services on the back end that are up and running. So that if you want to play that game, your console needs to sign into those services to confirm, yes, you have the ability, the right to play that game. And more games are heading towards an always-on internet connection type of model, where it's not even if you want to download that game to your console, does it have to check, but just every time you launch the game, it has to check. And so I really worry that we're going to end up in a scenario where manufacturers are going to start cutting off old consoles at the knees because they don't want to invest the money in keeping that older infrastructure running. So let's say something like 10 years from now, you've got a PlayStation 4 game that you bought and downloaded from the PlayStation Store. And maybe, you get nostalgic about that game. Your PlayStation 4 has been in the closet collecting dust, so you pull it out, you hook it up, and it needs to check on the internet to log into your account and make sure that you can still play that game. But at that point, they'd already have turned off the services for that game console, meaning the servers no longer accept authentication requests from it to check that you are able to play that game that you paid for it. And so you're stuck. You can't play the game that you paid for anymore. And of course, they'd be happy to sell you a new copy of a game on whatever the new console is, probably for maybe a little bit cheaper than what it originally went for, but the fact remains you paid for that game once and now they're asking for you to pay for it again. Of course, now if you want to play those games and you don't have the hardware, they're happy to sell you those again, like games on the virtual console. Thankfully, they're only a few bucks, so they aren't really trying to kind of screw people over. They're not charging the 40 to 50 bucks that a AAA title would normally go for these older games. But what if they do? Or what if they just decide to stop supporting that game entirely? Maybe the original publisher doesn't see it worth the money to port to whatever the new console is, whatever that console is at the time. So that game has essentially been lost to history. You can't really go back and play it again if it requires internet connection in order to authenticate, but it's not able to be authenticated anymore. And that's, I think, the really worrisome part, is you're no longer really owning the content that you buy. You're simply renting it. And if they're going to do that, if the industry really is going to go towards a you are only renting your content type of model, I think they should just get out right in front of it and say, we're only going to do a rent model. We're not going to charge you $60 for a AAA title anymore. We're going to charge you $10 or $20 a month for a subscription service. Yeah, in the long term, you're probably paying more that way, but at least they're being honest with you up front as to what you get and what you don't, and what the ramifications of all of that are. And there are signs that the industry is heading this way, especially with music. Digital downloads have been decreasing, significantly in terms of buying music that you store on your hard drive and play whenever you want. I don't think those are really ever going to go completely away, but it's obvious that in the music industry, things are moving more and more towards streaming. In fact, as I'm filming this, not too long ago, Apple announced the Apple Music program, where it's basically $10 a month and you can stream whatever music you want. It's just like Spotify or Pandora or anything like that. And the industry, the music industry, is finally really getting into that because they realize there's more money to be made that way. Instead of the people that buy maybe 3 or 4 albums a year, now they're getting $10 a month from everyone to listen to music that they already want to listen to. And I wonder where it's going to end. Obviously, we're heading that way with TV and movies and services like Netflix and Hulu. It's again kind of a rent model instead of an own model. Sales of Blu-rays have kind of consistently been decreasing. Same thing with DVDs. More and more people just want the convenience of online. But there are some major pitfalls to having everything be digital. And again, I worry that a lot of media, lots of games and music and movies are really going to be lost to time, because at some point no one's going to be able to listen to them or play them or watch them anymore just because they weren't all that popular. So what I'm curious about are your thoughts. What do you think is going on in this space? Where are we headed? Are purchases of games ever going to go completely away? Are we ever going to stop being able to buy games off the shelf at a store and put them in our game consoles and just be able to play them whenever we want without the internet being a part of it? Or do you think that at some point in the near to not too distant future, all of that's really going to disappear? I'm kind of convinced that this console generation is the last that we're going to have physical games for. I'm pretty sure that at least the next version of Nintendo's consoles are going to be internet-based only. And it's entirely possible that Sony and Microsoft may go the same way. But again, I'm curious as to what you think. So leave a comment down there and let's continue the discussion. So if you liked the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Those help quite a bit. If you haven't already, do subscribe. The button is, down here somewhere. And as always, thank you all so much for watching.